beautiful sews. So I'm gonna do like a little get together here in my home, you know, with a few people. So I want to make party favors, and this is the die that I'll be using. They used to be named Our Daily Bread Designs. Now they are named Divinity Design. So this was a die that came out back in the day. It was the rave. I ended up buckling and buying it. These come with other layers as well, you know, like ornate layers, but I didn't end up getting that. I just got this set that makes the bag and then the layering pieces. And this is what they look like if, you know, if newcomers are not familiar with it. It makes a cute bag. And I will be making these out of cardstock, but today I will be making them out of fabric. So before we can cut these out on fabric, we have to prepare the fabric. So this is the fabric I'll be using today. I'm only gonna make 2 bags out of fabric, and it's like, this is like a canvas kind of fabric. It's a little bit lighter than a canvas, but definitely thicker than a regular cotton fabric. I do love making bags out of canvas material, and it's not a good idea to cut with your dies directly on the fabric, because this is what's going to happen. It's going to shred like crazy. This has to have stability. So how do we prepare this fabric? We're going to use fusible interfacing. This is how I known it as a former fashion designer. This is what we call it. It is also known as heat and bond. This one is a little bit thicker than this one, and these do come in various thickness, so you know, they're gonna have different prices per yard depending on how thick your fusible interfacing is. And on one side is smooth, and on the other side has these little tiny bumps. That is the part that actually adheres to the fabric with an iron. It needs heat in order for that to happen. Okay, we're also going to be using this material here called fusible web. And what this does, it bonds both 2 fabrics together. For instance, this is an example of what I mean. So I did use a die to make this double bow, but as you can see, it is double-sided, and it's double-sided on the bow itself and on the tail. So that's what this material does. It bonds both fabrics together, so you have a finished look, and it becomes even more sturdier. I did use this steel rule die to create that double bow, but as you can see, we will be using a regular thin die, and we're still going to achieve it to cut nice and clean and smooth without it shredding. Here I've cut out the fabric to size. You're going to need 2 of these. So here's my other piece. This is so that we can prepare them for ironing on the interfacing, on the fusible interfacing. You're going to need 2 of these for the handles, 1 of these, and then you're going to need 2 of these. To adhere the fusible interfacing to the fabric, you will need an iron. I already have mine cut out, and I want to share that you got to be very careful, always checking to make sure the bumpy side is facing the wrong side of the fabric. Otherwise it's going to stick to your iron. It sticks to it like it's glue. See? It's already stuck. So you're going to cut out all your interface for your fabric, and you're going to iron it on. I've already done that to all the pieces I'm going to use to cut out. So I did cut these out. I cut 2 of those. And you're also going to need to cover the inside. So I went ahead, this is the fabric I'm choosing to cover the inside of my bag. And this also has the iron-on fusible interfacing. And I'm going to show you how it does get cut. So you're going to sandwich your plates the way you would a normal die cutting with cardstock. And I want to show you because sometimes you're going to have to cut with the scissors. I guess it would depend on your own die cutting machine. This is the Sizzix fold away that I'm using, and I'm running this like 3 to 4 times. Okay, I'm hoping it does it here so that I can show you what I mean. Sometimes it doesn't cut all the way through, and I want to show you that in case you may experience the same thing. But because it has the lines on it, it's easy to follow that line to cut it through. Okay, well this one seems to be okay. Oh well, that one is okay. I had a little trouble pulling these sides apart, but it shows up, even the stitching lines and the lines show up really nice. Okay, and I went ahead and cut the one for the inside as well. And we're going to layer them like this so that we can have a nice clean side in the inside of our bags. But we're going to do something different to add this on here. This is the color I used for the pockets. I wanted, you know, something to different color. I didn't want the same fabric for pockets and the side pockets and even the handles. I wanted it something contrasting so that everything stands out. And now we're going to adhere a few of these pieces with the fusible webbing. Okay, so before we cut the fusible webbing to bond the fabrics together, we're only going to do that to a few of the pieces. We're going to bend like we would on the cardstock. We're going to fold and burnish all the score marks, and it really marks the fabric really well, so you'll be able to see it. I've already gone ahead and done this one. We're going to do it to this one. And I'm just going to, because this is cotton fabric, I'm going to crease it with my nails, and it'll give it a nice crease. See? For the inside layers, we're actually going to cut those parts off. The part that's supposed to bend. Okay, so that's done. Now for the sides, for these two sides, we're going to cut off all the score marks on this one. Here's an example. So this part will bond to this part with the fusible webbing, and I went ahead and did cut the fusible webbing here. We're also going to bend over the fabric along the score line and burnish it. This is for the people who don't sew. I would have sewed it, but because not everybody sews, not everybody knows how to, not everybody has a sewing machine, and not everybody likes to sew. So I want to make this as simple as possible. And so from here, I will take this piece, and this is the fusible webbing, and I will go ahead and cut to size. Okay, so that's prepped. So you're going to go ahead and do the same thing to this. You're going to fold over and burnish it, or burnish the lines. You're going to do that all around, and then you're going to cut only these parts off for that, as well as this is the pocket. This is the side pockets here. This is the front pocket. You're going to do the same thing that we did to this. You're going to do that to this. And then for the closure, the flap that goes over the pocket, what you're going to do is you're going to leave this one intact, because this one is the one that's going to get glued to the back of the purse, and then it's going to fold over like this. So we want this, you know, to show, so it'll look finished. And then for the flap, we're going to actually cut off, but we're not going to cut it off all the way to the line. We're going to leave a little bit so that we can fold it over, and it gives it a nice clean edge, and that will get fused with this fabric when we iron it with the fusible webbing. So all of this is going to get cut. We're going to cut this to size. We're going to lay it there, and then we're going to iron it. Okay, now for the straps, I put this pink paper here because hopefully you can see the webbing better there as you would if I left it here. So I'm going to take one of the straps and put it under, and I'm going to take the other strap and put it on top, lining it up. And I'm going to pin all 3 layers together. And now you just cut around it, taking care that you do not cut the fabric. If you want, you can recut this with your die cut, with your die, your metal cutting die. Since this is like really thin, it'll cut through in one pass. I just don't feel like taking out my die cutting machine again. I've attached the 2 pieces, the inner piece, and this is the outer piece with the fusible webbing, by ironing it. And I'm going to share how that's done. I'm also going to share how to bond these 2 pieces together, because there's a certain way we need to do that. These 2 also need to get bonded. So these are the only pieces that need to be bonded before we actually assemble. Okay, so you're definitely going to need parchment paper. It's highly suggested, otherwise some of the fusible webbing might get stuck to the surface that you're using, and you don't want that because it becomes a mess, and it also sticks to your iron. We're going to use 2 pieces of parchment paper. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this over. This protects, and it also helps aid in holding that down. Okay, or may not get an overhang like I do here. So just trim that off. That's not a big deal. Okay. And when you're ironing these down the same way we did this, open these parts up for the sides of the bag that builds the bag, that creates the bag. Okay, to bond these 2 pieces together, you're going to need 2 pieces of webbing. One to bond both pieces together, and then another piece to bond this fold over here, so it could be nice and flat. Ironing these are pretty easy. You know, you just place it down and then just iron it. I'm not going to iron it with the pins, but I will tack it down here first and here, and then I'll remove it with the pins, because this is, you know, this is very thin, and I don't want it to wiggle out of line. Start the assembly. So for the closure of the pocket, I did use these plastic snaps, and it's a kit that came in this container that I bought a few years back. It comes with snaps and it comes with the gadget to lock it in place. It also comes with this awl, or I call it a pokey tool. And this is a tip. My friend Ida gave me this tip. She said, because when I first put it on here, it kind of fell apart. So she told me to put a little bit of acetate, you know, behind it, which I did. As you can see the shininess there. So there's acetate behind this button, and that made it a lot more sturdier. So thank you, Ida, for that tip. Ida is my friend from Created to Create here on YouTube. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adhere these two pieces together. This is the bottom of the bag, and I will be using Beacon Magnetac. This works great for fabric. You can use Fabri-Tac. You can use any kind of glue that's for fabric. So to make sure that it's under the fold line here. Okay. Excuse me. Now we're going to take the sides, and we're going to glue that one here, and we're going to glue this one here. Okay, making sure that it's under that score line. So do the same for the other side. Okay, now I want to glue this part in here, and that's going to hide those tabs. But I want stability, so I'm going to glue a piece of chipboard or thin cardboard. This is from my cereal box, and I'm just going to glue that here, and then I'm going to add glue to here, and then I'm just going to add this here. Okay, now that that's on there, now we're going to glue the pocket to the front. You choose which side is going to be your front, and we're just going to glue these 3 edges where that blue fabric is showing. Take care not to add too much glue where it oozes out of the edges, and then this part gets stuck to the fabric as well, to the front of the bag. Making sure that this is completely glued down, we're going to attach this piece. So I'm going to add glue here, and while I'm doing this, I'm not gonna actually like close it, like lock it in place, because and then this is gonna lift, and I want to make sure this is completely glued down before I can actually close it. Okay, so I do have glue on here. The great thing about using Beacon or Fabri-Tac glue is that it dries quickly. It's alcohol based, and it dries very, very quickly. I'm going to use this tool to run it across the top of the, or the edge of the closure or flap, to make sure that that really adheres really, really well. And I'm adding pressure to that as well. So as you can see, it's nicely adhered, but I'm still not going to close it yet. So before we adhere this way, we're going to add the pocket to that. I've already done it on this side, and it is supposed to protrude this way. That's the way the die was designed. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to adhere this part to the bottom here first. this side. So I'm just squeezing this together. The pocket is wider than this part here, so that's why I'm squeezing this together so that it's actually flush. And now this score line here matches this one here. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And I'm also gluing it here as opposed to gluing the pocket out here because it's much cleaner that way. These two together where the score lines meet. So now you're going to get that protruding effect as you see here. Okay, now we're going to start assembling it. One, I have the glue on there, and the best way to adhere this is to have your finger under there for support, and I'm just aligning this as best as I can. And I actually did this for all of them. It made it so much easier to align and put together. And the bag is put together. Look how cute. This is so stinking cute. Okay, now we're gonna layer the inside. Remember we cut out these pieces for the inside? Well, guess what? We're not even gonna use the fusible webbing because since I put this pocket here and it's bumpy, I can't iron it. And so I'm just gonna use the same glue that I've been using, the fabric glue, to attach it. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna align the top first. And it's making contact with the outside fabric. Then I'm gonna put pressure here to attach the rest of it. And there it is. So it cleaned off those tabs. It cleaned it off nicely. You're going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so there you have it. The last thing to do is to add your straps, your handles, on this one here. And I'm not going to add these straps yet because I want to add this trim around. One is for each of my granddaughters. I have a ready-made granddaughter. She's 3 years old, meaning that she's my step-granddaughter. My son's fiance has a 3-year-old daughter. And then she has my 6-month-old granddaughter from my son. I've gone ahead and decorated it. I do have a project share going more into details. And I've also made some in paper for the grown-ups. So thank you for joining me today. Let's share, be fair, be filled with love, and love one another. Take good care, everybody.